Let's just let it roll for a little bit.
It's really easy to do it today.
It is really easy listening. You're listening to Easy Listening, the Camera Life podcast. So yes, welcome, good morning. This is the Camera Life podcast. It's, Thursday, the 16th of January already. The year is well and truly underway. And it's episode 45, brought to you by Lucky Straps out of Bendigo, Victoria. I'm coming from Melbourne, Victoria. And our special guest today, our special guest today is famous alumni of the show, Nev Clarke. Nev, welcome back.
Thank you for having me back. It's great. Yeah, really excited actually to be back on the show.
That's good.
I haven't been as active on the show recently because of time, the time difference, as you could imagine. But
what time is it where you are? You're in WA. What time is it right now?
6:07 a.m.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So you got up early for us.
Sun's up.
Yeah, it's about light here at about 4:30 in summer because we don't have the daylight. It's ridiculous. They don't like daylight saving here, so we get the really early sun.
Pagans.
The morning cyclists, they love it.
So
yeah,
do
I
you
can see the
do
light
you
streaming
shoot
in from behind you?
Do you shoot any sunrise stuff at this time of year, or are you just like no sunrise until winter?
Mostly till about I get to about March, and then I'll get up in the morning, and then it's kind of like 6 a.m. sort of just nice light at 6 a.m. But 4:30 is a bit for me. I'm getting a little bit older.
Cheeky comment from Lucky Straps team member Elena. Good morning, Elena. We were a little late. Justin and I were ready. It was all Nev this time.
She's added another one, the Camera Late podcast.
Oh, yeah,
we might change the name. Hey, we're pretty good.
We might remove your administration access.
That's right. She's one of our. You can tell she's got the wrench. She's one of our wrenches. So if you say something silly in the comments, she can boot you out of there.
She can. Good morning, Elena. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for everyone else joining us today. We're sorry we were a little bit late, just ironing out some technical issues. But we got there in the end.
Should we get Nev to give people, if you haven't seen Nev's previous episode, which is actually our most listened to episode of 2024, still
really
top of the charts.
Yeah.
You're very famous.
Families. Yeah, I paid
so
my
whoever
family
you
to
paid
watch it over and over.
They're doing a great job.
Nev, do you want to give people a little bit of a rundown of who you are, what sort of photography you do, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's funny. If you'd asked me that a year ago, I would have said, yep, I'm a landscape photographer that just occasionally dabbles in some other stuff. But I think now I kind of just call myself a photographer that can do a bit of everything. And I'm branching out into some different stuff that I hadn't done previously. I'd kind of done a couple of weddings a few years ago and never really sort of wanted to go into that. But recently I've sort of got back into that space a little bit. And I've got some coming up, actually. I've got a very busy couple of months, actually, weddings-wise, coming up. So that's been great. And then I've just been doing a lot of groups as well, like young people groups at one of the local youth centres here that I run, as well as some other lessons and stuff that I do with the community. In fact, I've got one this afternoon actually with it, and I tend to get a lot of people who come on holidays here, and then they look me up and then they go, "Oh, would you come and do a lesson with me?" Again, I kind of don't openly advertise, trying to balance the two, having a day job and then running my photography as well. It can get a little bit chaotic.
Now, Nev, speaking of your day job, mate, when we last spoke, you were working in drug and alcohol addiction and counselling. You're a very vocal mental health advocate. Is that still a key part of your day-to-day?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I do that job 4 days a week, and I did that a couple of years ago. I decided to go 4 days a week so I could expand my photography, and where that journey goes beyond, I don't know. It's you guys understand that there's this perception that photographers are driving around in BMWs. Well, we're not. You're not doing
Audi.
this because of
Well, though Justin does have a Mercedes.
Oh, no.
Granted, it's a van.
It's a 10-year-old Sprinter van, but it still counts.
It's still a Mercedes. It's still got the badge.
Yeah. So just balancing that out, like finances and stuff. But the last 6 months has been really, really busy. And I've been doing some project work for a couple of local shires, just lots of different things. And I tended to just, if someone approached me with something or I approached someone else with an idea, even if I hadn't done that type, I'll give you an example. I approached one of the local restaurants, my favorite restaurant in town. I said, look, why don't we do some food photography? I put my hand up straight away and said, I've never done it, but I'll find out how to do it. And seeing that it's a bit of a challenge for me as well to jump outside of my comfort zone. Same with portraits, as you guys have seen, I've started to dabble into that space a little bit. And again, it's toes in the water. Do I like it? Do I want to go forward with it? Yep, I like it. I'm enjoying it. So it's kind of expanding my skill sets, because I think as a landscape photographer, I know I'm good, like without being arrogant. I know I'm good at that, and that's great. But I want to get good at other stuff as well. I want to just branch out and keep doing new things.
I think that's really interesting to hear, Nev, and especially the organic way in which someone who, consider themselves a part-time, maybe enthusiast with some good skills, has actually managed to branch out and expand your portfolio of genres and clients. And just out of curiosity, what is your favorite restaurant in town? I'm assuming you're not talking about KFC.
No, it's called Garrison's, which is by the forts, and I don't know the name Garrison's comes from an old. It's in Albany's got a steep history in the Anzacs. It's where the Anzacs left to go to Gallipoli. So that area, Garrison's, is an old. I think it's an old military storage unit where some of the stuff was stored before they went to war. I remember reading something about it in the restaurant, and it's a beautiful restaurant now up on Mount Clarence there, and I love the people that run it. They're really nice people, and I sort of approached them really and said, they've got a new menu coming out. So when they said to me, we've got a new menu coming out, I said, why don't we do a photo shoot? So and I learned how to use lights in that situation as well, and the photos turned out great. So again, they weren't perfect in my eyes, but that's me being a bit probably picky. But it's certainly an area that I'd love to do a little bit more of. Yeah.
What a way that's the way to learn. Just get into it and hopefully offer some value to someone else as well. They get images, you get to try out a new genre and just see if you like it. Who knows what can come of that? That is the way to do it. And that's when I made the thumbnail for this show, after Greg said you were coming on, I was like, I think this is what we'll be talking about the most is because I think particularly for landscape photographers, there can be a bit of apprehension around introducing people into their photography sometimes if they're a very sort of mainly landscape photographer, used to being out on their own, in control of the scene, don't have to talk to anybody or anything like that. So, I want to talk more about experimenting with portraits and groups and that kind of thing. And if you've got any advice for people who want to try new genres in 2025. But before we do, last time we talked about your calendars, your photography calendars. And since then, you would have gone through calendaring season, which is basically up until, now. It's the start of a new year. Did you do it? So, give people a little bit of backstory of you've been doing these calendars with your images in your local area. And then how it unfolded this year.
Yeah, I probably didn't. It's funny, I think I've started a bit of a trend, and I didn't sell as many as I did previous year. But that's because a lot of people actually messaged me and said, Nev, I know you did these calendars. How did you do it? So I was quite happy to share how I did it, how the process and so forth. And even I had a couple of the little community organisations, one of the local photography disability groups that runs, I shared how to do it as well because I wanted them to experience it. So it's almost like I shared the love because I didn't want it to be just my little baby. I held a competition this year with mine where basically if you bought a calendar, you went into a competition to win a prize, which I still haven't drawn yet because I've got one calendar left and I'm waiting to give that off to somebody. But so my idea was really initially born out of a friend of mine approached me and he said he didn't want to do calendars anymore. Would you do it? So in the, we call it the Albany way, we just share. We go, okay, well, how about someone else? So I had 3 or 4 people approach me, and they did their own calendars. So I think that probably eats into the ones that I saw. But at the end of the day, I also found this December and November, I was extremely busy with a lot of other photography work that came forward through September, October, November. I was pretty much shooting all the time, doing other jobs. So the calendars, I wouldn't say they took a back seat, but it definitely wasn't a priority as much as it had been in the previous years.
And that often happens, doesn't it? When you've got a passion project like doing a calendar or making a photo book, or even just finding time to, design and get your own business cards printed, because you're finding that more and more people are asking about your photography work. Finding the time when things start to ramp up, finding the time to do those little side projects just gets eaten away really quickly.
Yeah. Particularly if there's anything like weddings or shoots like that. That's actually the main reason that I ended up having to move away from shooting weddings was, Lucky's biggest sort of time of the year is November, basically. And that was also one of the biggest months of the year for weddings. And you can't, when weddings start happening, you can't do anything other than do them. As in, whereas with Lucky, it's like, as long as we get all the orders out, that's fine. But I would push off things like sending out emails or, doing product photography and things like that, because it can wait. So then it would wait, whereas a wedding cannot wait. Like if you're booked in for a wedding, you're shooting a wedding, it's happening. I think.
Speaking of weddings.
Yes.
And sloppy segues.
Drunk wedding photographer.
G'day, David.
What's up?
Mushy.
How are you? There's also a really wonderful comment here from Facebook. From digital with Tia Wow. I can't pronounce that bit, but we'll read it out because it's great. Hey mate, you stream pretty awesome, which is impressive, and I'd also like to stick with you for a long time, man, if you don't mind, and to be a dedicated fan of yours. Please kindly add me on Discord. No, probably not.
Yeah, it might pass this time.
It's our first random spam.
But stick around to the end of the show because we need the viewership.
Yeah, keep streaming. Thank you.
Yeah. Don't stop.
Yeah. We're up to 886, I think, subscribers. We need to get that to 1,000.
Oh, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
2025. Yeah. Well, I'm proud of our subscribers, though. Every day I look at it. Some days it doesn't go up. Some days it goes up 2 or 3. But they're real people. Real people.
Yeah. No dogs, cats, no
bots.
Yeah, no bots. No. The bots are the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David number 2 is here. Dave, Digifrog, what's up?
G'day, mate. How are things in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, what's Tassie like this time of year?
Yeah. Oh, now, David, the drunk wedding photographer, you're in California, I believe, but I think you're in Northern from memory?
SoCal. He's down
Southern Cal.
Near LA.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah. Hoping that you and everyone you know is safe.
Yes.
After the crazy fires.
Yeah, and he's just saying it's crazy how we live in opposite lands. Yeah. November, no weddings in the US.
He's in LA.
And November, all weddings in Oz. Yeah, exactly. It's the other way around.
Yeah.
Hopefully everything's all good where you are. I've heard a few stories. There's a couple of YouTubers called Colin and Samir. They do actually super interesting. They're YouTubers and all their content is around other YouTubers. But they'll do things like a behind the scenes, like Mr. Beast just made his new big game show on Amazon Prime, which is pretty crazy. He's a YouTuber. I don't know if you old people know that. Nothing, Greg. Okay, he's not biting today.
No, I'm not.
Anyway, but unfortunately, these two guys, both of their houses were burnt down in the Palisades fire, and both of them have pregnant wives currently.
Wow.
It's like, so there'll be a bazillion stories like that, which is pretty sad, but yeah. David says, I'm safe, thank you. A couple of my friends' houses were saved by a hair. It's crazy, but they're okay. And we've also got Philip Johnson in the house. Morning, gents. Morning, Philip.
What's up? Philip. Where are you calling in from?
Will you be attending BFOP again in 2025? Let us know. He was there this year.
Speaking of
There was
it's time to start thinking about that soon.
Yeah, I
Justin,
know. I know.
Start making plans.
I've been thinking about it a lot. We need to talk to Matt. We get on there and make it a big thing this year.
Yeah, well, Matt's hopefully Matt's going to join us towards the end of March. He's got some stuff going on. He's only just gotten back from Africa, I think.
I know. He's been doing cool things.
He has been doing cool things. But yes, so we will have Matt on. In fact, the next 3 months are book solid now. I've been busy at work, harassing, stalking, shadowing, manipulating photographers.
So we've got, and they're Fujifilm photographers every week until
every
March?
Single one of them. We've got a mix of people from the creative genres, and I think it's going to be a big year for the Camera Life. We're going to get a lot. We're going to get a lot done.
Yeah,
we've got some big plans.
Onwards and upwards this year.
Onwards and upwards.
Speaking of Fujifilm, did you see the little rumors about the rangefinder?
Oh, this is Nev's favourite topic. He messages me about this once a week.
Does he? Fixed lens
he does.
GFX?
It's true, isn't it, Nev? Once a week he'll send me a message saying, I can't stop thinking about it. And I haven't bought anything for the last 3 months, although I just ordered this. That's usually the message
I think I've cured my gas. But you'll laugh how I cured it.
How'd you cure it?
Took up golf again.
Oh, no. So you haven't cured it, you just changed it to different stuff.
Yeah. Different gear.
No, I've actually been good. I wouldn't say I ever had gas. I think I just liked trying new things, but I haven't bought anything for ages. But just speaking of the rangefinder, I think it's really interesting. It's not a camera I would buy, but
bullshit.
No. You guys are going to hold to me account to this. That
I am. We're going to record this and play it back. Well, it is recorded. We're going to play it back to you.
Lifetime ban from the show if I buy the rangefinder RF100. I think it's called an RF100. For me, it's not. I think the specs are good. I think there's nothing. It's interesting they didn't put in-body stabilization in a camera that's 100 megapixels. I did find.
Well, we don't know yet. We don't know.
Well, I like how you're like they didn't, but no one knows. I mean, it's on the rumors.
We don't know, Nev. We don't know. Let's just put that out there. We don't actually, despite our contacts with Fujifilm Australia, and I have many, we just don't know. They hold this very close to their chest. We're making assumptions.
I'm pulling it up. Pulling it up. Where are we? It doesn't say. See.
X Pro 3.
Readers know that it would be about as big as the Fujifilm X Pro 3, and apparently have a 28 mil equivalent lens. Is that? Is that what you guys are hearing?
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. I mean, don't forget, Fujifilm did release one of the first GFX cameras was the 50R, which was basically a bulky X Pro 3. But its autofocus was incredibly slow and tacky.
So like all other Fujis.
Can you? Well, we're going to delete that. But
they know
the thing with this this new rangefinder is that.
Where is it?
Yes, A, it is a rumor, but B, it makes a lot of sense. Fujifilm have experienced a lot of love for the X100 series over the past, what's it been now? 12 years, probably. They just had their 90th anniversary. A limited edition X100 was released. And the last GFX they released, which was the 100S Mark II, is Fuji's smallest. I think it's the smallest and lightest yet most powerful GFX camera they've released to date. And it's priced to appeal to enthusiasts. So less pro, more enthusiasts wanting to start off in medium format. And I think that if this is a real thing, that it will appeal to a slice of the market that have been hanging out for an X Pro 4 or X Pro 5, as the rumor is now, but also want to push into medium format. And it also brings the challenge to Leica's door with the Q3s.
Fully agree with that.
Yeah. And it's certainly, it's not going to, destroy the Q3's market or anything like that, but it might snag a few people, it
will be cheaper.
Wow. You reckon?
Yep. Fujifilm will not go above the price of a Q3.
So you're going to be more like, instead of Q3 sits at that like 10 grand-ish mark. You reckon
it'll
this will
be
be more
around
like
6 or 7.
Oh, if it was 6, if it's 6, that's going to, if it's 6, I'll buy it on launch. If it's 7, I'd have to think about it. And if it's 8 or 9, it's like, I don't know.
Wait for sale. Wait for a cashback.
6, I mean, 6 for the 100 megapixel that sensor, and hopefully a nice lens. We'll have to wait for some tests. But the only thing, obviously, F4 is a little bit on the slower side.
No, but it's medium format.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Like, but the thing is, it's still a long way away from 1.7 on the Q3 at full frame. You know, like it's not going to give you the same kind of look.
No.
It's going to have different benefits. 100 megapixel. Yeah, very different, but also very similar.
So I've got a question for Nev. Nev, why is it that you think it's not something that would appeal to you?
I think what I've noticed probably in the last maybe 6 months or so, I'm either lugging the big dog out, the GFX 100S2 for my pro work. I call it the big dog.
Yeah, good.
The big tank. Or I'm completely putting those tools down and just going back to my XT5. Now, interestingly enough, I contemplated actually getting the X100 V1 as a smaller option. And I had a guy in Perth actually, and I hope he's watching the show, but I was going to swap my XT5 with his X100V. We were just going to swap cameras essentially. Yeah. But then I went out, started shooting again with my XT5, just doing some fun stuff. And I thought, no, this is too good. I love the files out of this thing, and I love the camera, interchangeable. So I've kept it, which I'm really glad I made that decision. So I'm either, big working camera or I'm little camera, and not much kind of sits in between. And I think this camera, the new RF model, I think would sort of sit in between. It'd still be reasonably bulky, and I think, and I've still got my GFX 50S2, which is, I think I've still got that as my backup GFX, because if I go and do a shoot in my other camera files, I've got a backup camera as well as my XT5. So I've sort of got, I'm Fuji right across now. I sell off my Nikon, all my Nikon gear is gone. My DSLR is completely finished. So yeah, I think it's not so much that I wouldn't like that camera. It'd be, where would it fit? What would I use it for? It's sort of almost like, would it fit in my pro work, or is it a fun camera? Because at a fun camera at 6K, it's a lot of money for just a bit of fun. So that's probably where I sat with it. I was a bit like you too, mate, Justin. I was thinking, $6 grand. If you get a bit more work in and it comes in, you could get one. But then you go, that's a lot of money, sort of thing. And I'm saving for a trip to Europe with my partner as well. So
it is a lot, isn't it? I think it's interesting because they're predicting that. I mean, the rumors are rife, and one thing I do find, because I write news every morning for shotkit.com, I research, seek, and report on the news. The rumor sites, what I've noticed is they'll say, you've heard it here first, and they'll announce something that seems quite outlandish, and then you never hear of it again. Now, I know that the medium format fixed lens rumor has been around for a while now. It's not new. And there's also rumors that they're doing an X Pro 5, an XE5, as well as a small sensor point and shoot, which will be interesting for street photography, if that's a fixed lens. And this GFX, but and a lot of news outlets are reporting that Fuji will probably make and release 4 to 5 cameras this year, which seems a lot.
I heard the X Pro wouldn't come till 2026 is the rumor that I heard. I don't know whether it's true or not.
That's kind of what I've read too. Yeah.
Tell me this. What the current one's the X Pro 3? What happens
current
to the
by 4 to 5 years?
Yeah, but it's the one. It's the most recent model.
Yeah.
So why are they saying 5? X Pro 5. What happened to the 4?
Because what they've fallen into line with is that the ecosystem moves with the sensors now. So we're talking about an X Processor 5. Some of them are HR, some of them are kind of a slightly altered chip, a sensor. So it goes around the sensor and the processor.
Right, not
so current
like
architecture
1, 2,
is
3, 4.
Yep. No.
It just goes with whatever the current.
Yeah,
right.
It used to be that. It used to be that. The X100, it's its own thing, really. It does its own numbering system because and I think what they're aiming for, what I believe they're aiming for. So in 2034, Fujifilm hits 100, and I think by then they'll be up to the X Pro 10. The X110. X100X. And I think they'll do an anniversary 100 edition.
The X100X.
Won't be limited. It will just be every one of them.
I'll pre-order that right now.
That's in 6 years. So they've got 3 more models to get through until then, or they might just skip a gen. Like they have the XM5. Was there an XM4? I don't think there was.
No, that I don't know where the 5 came.
It's because of the X Processor 5 and
Wow, that's
so it always follows the processor and the sensor now. It seems to.
And
so
that little camera's been a really good seller, from according to what I've read and see it on the forums, and people loving it.
Well, let me give you some sales data.
Yeah.
Speaking of, we should talk about all of that sales data. Do you see all the stuff that come out in the last month or two?
Yeah. So Map Camera, this is in Japan. Map Camera is one of Japan's top 10 selling camera retailers. I visited one of the Map Camera, or their big Map Camera store. It's phenomenal. First and, like new and secondhand products are just bananas what they've got in there. Multiple levels of a building. But in 2024, according to Map, their best sellers were the Fujifilm X100-6, the new XT50, which came out last year at the Fuji Summit with that GFX that Nev now uses, the 100S2, and the 2-and-a-bit-year-old Fujifilm XT5 was the 5th bestseller.
Interesting.
The R6 Mark II and the R5 Mark II were 8 and 9, respectively. And the rest were Nikons, two Sonys. But the A7C Mark II, which is more of an entry-level blogging content creation kind of camera, the A7C series. So, the XM5 didn't appear on that sales chart because it was fairly new towards the end of the year. But in other news, the BC, the camera rankings, the Japanese camera sales ranking figures showed that the BCN plus R showed that Fujifilm, the X100-6 again, was the best selling camera, I think. Just trying to find out more about Fujifilm's performance there because that's all that we care about. They sold almost 19% of the market share last year, so they're growing. So 1 in 5 cameras sold, whereas it was a Fujifilm last year. That's pretty impressive in the space of a little over 12 years to gain that sort of growth.
Yeah, especially not having a full-frame sensor.
Yeah, well, Canon's at 25.55% of all cameras sold. So Fuji's gaining ground.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's scarily, that's close enough for Canon to be a little worried. Just a little.
I don't know if they should be worried, but it's
shut up.
Like you say, it's
that.
impressive. Well, what are they going to? What worried? They're not going to steal any sports photography or
they're not
news photography or
the demand in
the
entry to enthusiast level market has.
That's where they're crushing. They're crushing Canon with products like the X100 that Canon has zero competitor for. It's like, well, it's not even an option. If you want that style of camera. Yeah. What are your options? Ricoh?
None of them do.
Or Leica?
You need to jump to Leica or Panasonic or OM system.
No, but even then, like if you talk fixed lens, like if you want that compact sort of fixed lens, there's a few companies trying to do the compact thing, but the lenses can't get there. They're pancake lenses on a crop sensor camera. If their pancake lenses are f4 or 5.6 on a crop sensor camera, it's like no, that's not working. Like that's why this thing works. Being a f2, it can work. It's an f2.8 equivalent on a crop. That's very usable and great. Even the Ricoh at 2.8's very usable. But once you're talking 5.6, like it's too dark.
Well, speaking of 5.6, Seven Artisans yesterday announced an 18mm f5.6 prime pancake for Sony E. I think it's is it just Sony? Anyway, it's a fixed aperture lens. So it's fixed at 5.6.
Yeah.
It's manual focus and, but it's only like, what, $99 US.
Yeah.
I think it's probably going to be less even. It's for Sony E, Nikon Z and L mount. So.
A couple of good comments coming in.
A couple of crackers.
Let's first start with, we've got to go way back. Hang on. Let's start here. Travis Harris, stunning work, Nev. We'll bring up a little bit of Nev's work a little bit later, just see what he's been doing later on. Paul Henderson, do they count Instax with those figures? I bet they do.
No, it's digital camera sales. Digital camera sales.
They're digital. They got a little chip in them or something.
You've got a chip in you vaxxer.
They make photocopiers. I think they make photocopiers too.
Yeah, they count those too.
They count those.
And X-ray machines.
X-ray machines.
It's all cameras. Someone's got a camera on it. That's,
A drunk wedding photographer says there's no such thing as a pancake lens, more like muffin lenses. Never seen a pancake that thick. That is true. It's a stretch, isn't it? It's a thick pancake. It's a thick pancake. It's pretty thick.
What's that one?
That's a little TTZ Artisan 27 2.8.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which I acquired. It's a funny story. I won't share it on air how I acquired it. I didn't steal it, but it came to
be
me
in your
yesterday.
possession.
It came to me yesterday, and I've got to do a review for it, and then let them know whether I want to keep it.
What pancakes have you got, Justin?
This one, which is the closest thing to an actual pancake. You're not going to be able to see it very well. The Canon RF 28mm 2.8 pancake lens, which is very, very light and pretty close to pancakey, considering, and pretty impressive. Its performance is good. Like, I'll happily throw it on and shoot with it. I would like it if they made a 28mm that's not quite as small and maybe goes down to f2. That'd be pretty sweet. That'd be a bit more useful for me, but I'd probably be able to get rid of the Q3 then. But
this is mine. This is a
it's pretty pancakey.
Yeah, this is the Fujifilm 27 2.8. This is the updated weather sealed version, and that's with the lens hood on it.
Yeah,
it's nice. And that's autofocus. Like, this is autofocus. That's what I don't. Yeah. I mean, I understand what these companies are doing, like Seven Artisans, and obviously they're cheap, but this was reasonably cheap. But when there's autofocus options out there that are the same size and 2.8 with good image quality, to get a manual fixed at 5.6 isn't that enticing for me.
Yeah.
But anyway.
What else in the comments have we got?
Daniel says, dude looks like a hawk on the bottom. Thanks, man. Hawks are pretty sweet.
What looks like a hawk on the bottom? What did I miss?
Me. The dude on the bottom. I'm on the bottom.
Oh.
Like Tony Hawk, I think he means.
Now Nev looks like a hawk.
No, you're not a hawk. Like Tony Hawk, I reckon he means. I think you look
me.
like Tony Hawk.
Looks like hawk. Yeah. I thought he meant like a hawk. You'll have to clarify your comment, Daniel, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's nice.
Nice.
And Philip Johnson says, Katoomba. Oh, he's
well,
from
that's where
Katoomba,
he was coming from,
the electrical storm capital of New South Wales. And yes, he's got his BFOP ticket like Willy Wonka's golden ticket.
It is like a Wonka's golden ticket. Yeah. Someone should do a video, like a parody of people getting their BFOP tickets. And
that would be fun. Well, they do sell gold tickets.
They do.
Which are the coolest things ever.
You should head over for BFOP one day. Yeah.
I'm going to. Yeah, that was. I actually I it sounds terrible. I hadn't heard of it until I met you guys, and
we hadn't. I hadn't. It's freaking
I
crazy.
didn't know nothing. What's BFOP? Like, what does actually the words even mean? I tried to Google that, and it's like, so I knew nothing about it until you guys sort of came across my world, and I definitely want to come over for it and meet you guys and just see it all. Yeah,
almost out of tickets this year. I think they might be out. Actually, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we haven't got tickets.
No, we
We're not
haven't.
going
places.
We're desperately hoping they're still going to accommodate us and Lucky can sponsor something or whatever because
we're going to show up with a card table.
We didn't buy tickets. Anyway, please, Matt.
Remember
let
those?
us back in.
Did your folks have those old square card tables with like a vinyl laminate, like a vinyl soft material coating, and the 4 legs that folded out?
Single legs, yeah.
Single legs, nothing extended, nothing folded.
Ours was a fake wood grain vinyl.
We had that. It was brown.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, it was real nice.
Yeah, and that just came out for everything. Christmas, camping, the whole lot. Well, that's what we need to take to BFOP.
That could be our entire stall. Yeah. That'd be pretty cool. Now, I do have the dream of taking over our personalization stuff and being able to personalize straps for people just on the spot.
Cool.
I think we could do something pretty fun with that. And maybe make some key rings or trinkets and things like that, do some giveaways and people can personalize them and
nice.
I don't know. Well, yeah, that's what's in my brain, but we'll have to figure it out. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to hit you up for a new strap. I found the one I've got is too long. It dangles around. I want to get one that's and I've been thinking about a name for it and including some of the photography journey stuff that on it. So yeah,
I want to do a little custom strap. Okay,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we can do
the
some
GFX 100S needs it. It needs a strap. It's a big camera, and I do use it a lot on my wrist. It's funny actually. I've often said to people, get a wrist strap. It's actually a much better way to shoot. And when I ran the program just recently with the young people, I found some cheaper straps, just bulk. You know, I paid for them and put them on all of the cameras.
How could you, Nev?
Why didn't you buy bulk
Hey, why don't you hit us up?
wrist straps? What are you? Good. You don't have thousands of dollars available just to buy.
I had to sell the beaver to but it was great because I often say with a wrist strap, you can get low, you can get high, you can get sideways, whatever sort of thing. So it's a wrist strap is you need to have a wrist strap on your camera, people.
I think I agree, Nev. And the reason why I prefer wrist straps, I mean, granted, I've got smaller systems. I'm shooting with an XE4 and an X70, and so I'm using one of the Lucky straps. What is it? The deluxe wrist strap?
Yep.
That one. And I like it because it means that I've always got my camera in my hand.
Yeah.
I'm not fishing. I'm not having to pull it from around behind my back. I mean, there's downsides of that too, having one always in your hand, because when you come to do something two-handed, like eat something. I don't know how that got to that point, but no, but like, if you're wandering around and you do something with your other hand and you've got a camera hanging off it and you didn't bring a bag, that's the only time it's like, I've got to put it down. But for the most part, it inspires me to constantly be ready to shoot.
And that's why I don't use wrist straps. I use shoulder straps for the exact reason of I like to have the camera with me all the time. And if I have to hold on to it the whole time, I'll be less likely to have it with me all the time. But if I can throw it across my shoulder and just wander with it, and then
it's very rare that you're carrying just one camera, because often you're carrying like a GoPro or a little Osmo coffee cup.
I wouldn't say that. Coffee cup, very regularly coffee cup. But more so, I need to be able to like live life, or if I'm doing a shoot or whatever, be able to grab stuff, move stuff, that kind of thing. And I really like being able to just let go of the camera and do something, as opposed to having to place it somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It depends a little bit. I do use wrist straps every now and then, but I do, if I travel, like I'm bringing shoulder straps because I want to go out on the streets and just have the camera out and across my body the whole time.
Yeah.
Everyone's different.
Did we say hello to everyone in the chat? Paul Henderson. So. Did we say hello to Paul?
Yeah, he had the great comment about what the Instax being counted in Fuji's figures to bump him up. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So you only use wrist straps. What sort do you use?
Yeah.
Don't worry, you won't offend us. I assume they're not lucky straps. Maybe we can send you one to try out. What style do you like? What do you usually go for?
Let us know.
Let us know.
I just found just quickly. What I found with me is that when I have my wrist strap on, and I won't put it on, I've got the camera in my hand, so it's almost like I never use those little thumb things. I feel like my finger actually sits there to hold the camera. I feel like I just take a lot more shots. In fact, I don't even use the viewfinder. I just look at something and go, oh yeah, click, and I see something else. And so I find that the camera then just is actually part of my hand. It's almost like it just flows. It just works really, really well. And even with a Fuji camera, I can change the aperture in one hand. I can actually operate the whole thing by one hand.
Yeah.
I can spin the dial here. And so for me, it's not having to use my other hand. It's almost like it's like a connection thing, you know. It's the way my brain works.
Take your hand off and just attach a camera to it.
No. I think Paul Henderson's got a winning idea. You keep your free hand for a Lucky Strap coffee cup holder.
Expect royalties. Oh, you'll be getting tens of dollars from that.
Yeah.
Well, I have thought about it. Some Yeti cup accessories would be pretty cool. New name in the chat, Wookie. Oh, look at that pooch. Is that your dog? That dog is awesome.
That is his dog. Yeah. It's Shane Henderson. He's been on the show.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's his dog.
I didn't know that he was Wookie. Okay, so you got a strap harness belt for every occasion.
The Star Wars reference.
Well, I get that.
Do you?
Yeah.
I thought you were more of a Star Trek man.
Ugh, no. It's me. And what else we got? I use Drunk Wedding Photographer. I use leather wrist straps from Tap and Die. Oh, they're cool. Purchased them in 2014. Always open to test out something new though. Okay. We might be able to hook you up, see if you want to give a little test out to a strip. Strap. Tap and Die do make nice products. I don't know. I assume they're still going. They've been around a while.
They have.
Just like us. So very
10
cool.
years and counting.
Yeah, that's us. 10 years. We kind of flew past our 10-year anniversary. We really should have done something special. 10-year anniversary strap.
Like a 10-year anniversary strap, you know. You guys.
Well, we changed our logo, but I just never got around to making an anniversary strap. I was going to do a very cool theme, but everything was just so busy last year with the Canon. The Canon R5 Mark II launch, doing those straps that took a heap of our production away from us. That we sort of shifted towards that, which was amazing to be a part of. But yeah,
and BFOP took a fair bit of effort too. That wasn't nothing small.
No, exactly. So
not just our participation, but also the strap production in the background.
Yeah, custom straps for them.
That was pretty last minute and pretty frantic for the team. So,
do you just want to see a secret strap I've been working on? You just can't tell anyone because it's
don't tell anyone, okay, guys?
It won't get released for ages. But check out this thing that I made for the. Don't look too close because I actually made it myself for the Q3. Look at this. Hang on, focus. Come on, Canon. Yeah, just right on there. Whoop. No, it doesn't love.
Looks great, mate.
Yeah, I like it. Good. It's pretty cool. Thin. Goes across the bottom.
Take your word for it. It looks a little blurry from this angle.
You look a little blurry.
Shut up.
But yeah.
If it was a Fuji, it would have focused.
Look how thin. No.
Let's not go there.
No,
let's go there.
Let's not raise the elephant hand grenade in the room.
It still wouldn't have noticed that I'd put something in front of my face. Yeah,
well, the firmware is better. The firmware is better with the new Fuji. It is working better, but it's still not perfect.
Yeah, but it's getting there though. I mean,
usable.
Fast enough for landscapes.
Well, shut up. The XM5, when that first launched, that had Fujifilm's best autofocus performance. The entry-level camera had the same sensor and processor and image stabilization as a flagship, and the new firmware for focus performance. So that little $1,000 camera, was it $1,000 US or Australian? I don't know. Was actually their best performing camera.
Easy.
But now they've rolled that out across others.
So they did roll that firmware out to everything, basically everything.
Yep.
Yeah,
everything.
And it has made a difference.
Yeah, most people are saying it has. Some people, I mean, you're still going to find people who aren't happy. and that's
Well,
fine.
I mean, there's always going to be this, and this isn't a dig at Fuji. It's going to sound like a dig, so just brace yourselves. Everyone's going to, not everyone. There'll still be a section of people that complain, always, right up until, and then they'll still probably complain a little bit, but until they're literally as good or beating Canon and Sony. There's always going to be people that are like, well, it's not fast enough because there's something faster available. So even if they had it, 95% the performance of the best performing sports bodies on the planet, someone's still going to say, well, it's still not as good, or whatever.
Yeah. That's very true.
But as long as it's not bad, it's not unusable.
That's how I see it too.
It works, it's you're not missing photos or anything.
No.
And it's just another tool that, suits some people and it won't suit others. Like it's,
and
like you said, sports photojournalists are not going to go to Fujifilm.
Wow, but there are some sports photographers using it and doing great
work
with them. That's what I mean.
If you're at the top of your field, you're going to be using like an R1 or an older R3 or the R5 Mark II. You're not going to be,
or the Sony, like the A series,
the A1 Mark
A9,
II,
A9 III and stuff like that. Like,
that's just had a firmware update.
Which
the A1 Mark II and the A9 Mark III have all just had a firmware update overnight.
Was that
the new firmware
content authorization?
Authorization and provenance.
Yes.
So it's similar to what Fuji and Leica have signed up to, but this is kind of Sony's own initiative to show that they're actually doing something about creating tamper-proof EXIF data and metadata for images, for files that clearly identify whether AI was or wasn't used to create the file.
Yeah.
It's gonna become a thing that when we look back, we'll be like, oh, can't believe we didn't have that for a while. I can't believe for a while we weren't sure whether an image was real or fake. And obviously there'll always be ways to get around it. Probably there's always going to be someone pushing the boundaries.
Oh, definitely. But it's good to see that brands are addressing it. Fuji addressed it about 6 months ago by signing up to, can't remember the organization now, but the same one as Leica, and about 3,000 other digital content related companies signed up to this one with Fujifilm. But so Sony, that's the biggest part of that firmware update. The other minor updates are basically some minor enhancements to stills videos and overall functionality. So, and I think I'd just like to reiterate, going back to this point, that our good man Shane, who shoots concert photography in very challenging conditions with pyrotechnics, fire, smoke, low light, he's never had a problem with Fuji autofocus, nor has he had a problem when he dropped his XH2 down the stairs. So
I was gonna read this one out and I was gonna say, Shane says, I've never had a problem with Fuji autofocus. I shoot Canons. No, he says, but I don't rely on eye detect when shooting. Which, maybe that's the thing. It's like people are kind of trying to eke too much out of the system, instead of working with it. When we were shooting DSLRs, like you didn't expect the camera to be able to track the eye at f1.2 in the dark while someone was moving around a dance floor or a concert stage or whatever. You hoped it might. You'd be like, all right, I'm going to shoot 10 shots and see if I get one or something. But you weren't like, oh, this better be sharp every photo, otherwise this autofocus sucks.
And sometimes, and I've said this before, I've said sometimes sharp autofocus is overrated. We get so caught up in it. Has to stop it. I'm going to mute you. I think I can. Sometimes tack sharp images, they're beautiful for majority of situations, but like in cinematographers, when they look at lenses, they don't look for how sharp they are in focus. They look for the qualities out of focus. And I think there's something to learn from that in stills photography, that we spend too much worrying about center sharpness and the subject being so clearly defined that you can see every little pore and dot. But sometimes there's a lot to love about a little softness. Oh, I'm going to get that put on a strap. There's a lot to love about a little softness.
It's also
There was
that's a good tagline for a comfortable leather strap in itself.
Yeah,
It's a lot to love about a little softness.
It does remind me. I shot a wedding with my X-T5 on the old firmware, and it worked fine. But there was one particular shot that I knew the camera was going to struggle with because I knew that going into it. So generally speaking, what I was doing is, if most wedding scenarios where people are standing quite still or at the front and doing all their bits, that's fine, you can use. But when people are moving, that's where the camera struggled. So if you know a particular strength and weakness of a camera, you just switch modes on the fly. And when they started to walk back towards me after they'd been married, they were, or one of the guys was skaters, and he had a skateboard, or guys holding up skateboards, and they were walking towards me. I just flicked into a different mode and nailed the shot, no problems at all. So I think it does come back to, I think, as the drunk wedding photographer said, knowing your gear a bit and being able to adapt as you're going. Wookie was saying that you don't always use autofocus eye detect. I probably only use it about 10% of the time. And that's actually when I'm doing portraits. If I'm doing a sit-down portrait where someone's sitting in a chair, I whack it on autofocus, but I then pinch in and go, yep, that looks good, excellent, it's working. But that's
I think you're right. I think these cameras have such amazing, like they're almost got autopilot mode. In that they do a lot for you, and that's great. But sometimes there's a lot to be said about switching all of that extra stuff off and just controlling your exposure triangle and your composition, and making the most of those core fundamental aspects of photography. But that's just me, because I love,
it's like, say,
a little softness.
Knowing your limitations, knowing your limitations of your gear, and not expecting it to do things that it may be not capable of in those critical moments. And that's what we used to do in weddings with DSLRs and stuff. It's like we would try and shoot stuff wide open during the portrait session where there's less movement and we can repeat something. But when they're coming down the aisle and people are throwing confetti, no, we're probably at 5-6. Like we're gonna let's get the shot. Like we want the moment and the emotion, not let's see if we can get some pedal bokeh in the front at the risk of having a completely out of focus shot. Pedal bokeh. It's a real thing.
Pedal bokeh.
Now, on the other end of things, though, Drunk Wedding Photographer says, don't mean to bring politics in, but some of the recent iconic photos from the last election here in the US were taken with Sony cameras and lenses. And everyone's probably seen those couple of, there's that Trump photo where he's like bleeding and he's got his hand in the air and they're all holding him and shit like that after they shot him in the ear. That's one of those iconic photos that photographer will probably, for their career, that's a career photo.
It is, isn't it?
And that was a Sony photographer. But I think that same photographer also caught a bullet in one of the shots, like streaking across the frame, which I think he said if he wasn't shooting with that A9 II at the time, or a 3, whatever it was, he wouldn't have got.
If he had an R1, he would have missed it for sure. It probably would have taken the bullet. It's so big.
Possibly. I don't know what he
could
was
have protected the president.
Maybe he was comparing that to, an A1 or something that he used to shoot with. But he was like that, they're the sorts of photos that, and I mean, if he didn't get that shot, it's like the world would have kept spinning. Like it's not, just no one would have known that shot could have existed. But he got it, and it's kind of cool. So it's like they're those situations where it's like, if you're doing that kind of work, if you're thinking, well, sometime in my 40-year career, someone might try and shoot Trump, I'm going to get the fastest Sony camera I can.
Yeah, I need a Sony. That should be the tagline. Want to capture an assassination? Get Sony.
Oh, wow, I wonder if this will get us.
Is that a bit dark?
Anyway,
might.
It's a little bit dark. I was going to say it is interesting, isn't it? I don't know about you guys, but if I heard gunshots, I certainly wouldn't be putting my camera up. I'd be kind of using my camera to shoot. I'd be like,
so for
I'd be
all that
hitting the ground. But whereas Americans, I don't want to upset the Americans, but they're different.
Well, I remember watching
they
that
will
scene.
get their cameras out. And like, shoot it.
But that scene, most of the people in the crowd were just kind of going, "Where's it coming from this time?"
Were they not sure what was happening? And I mean, there's probably a little bit of panic or a little bit of shock, but for that photographer to get that photo, it probably sounds easy but yeah, would I have just ducked on the ground and not taken any photos? I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
you know, that's an amazing thing. But what got me also, and this is regardless of political sides or anything like that, but the Secret Service people that when they hear gunshots, their job is to run at the target and lay on them. That's fucking crazy. Isn't that insane? Like that's their job. And they do it without hesitation. They're like, my job is to run towards where the bullets are going and cover somebody.
And create a shield,
and just wait to get hit. You know, like maybe that takes a different kind of person. Yeah, it's insane.
It's really, really interesting. I used to, as a kid, and I still do this today, and I took a couple of photography people that I do lessons with and to the local town library. And what I was doing, it was just showing them how we used to do photography. And in the library, they have the old newspapers. They keep them. They go way, way back. And so we were going through the sports section, and then I was showing photos from 1972. See, they used to shoot sports with film cameras, and they were able to do it.
Yeah,
and my argument, they figured it out. And this was my... good photographers will figure it out. We did bird photography with film cameras, and it was damn hard. I mean, I've got a film camera here, but if you ever want to take one of these out and go and shoot some bird or sports with it, you will never ever complain about autofocus again, ever. Yeah. And I think that the new, and it's probably, it sounds like I'm having a little bit of a crack at the newer generation. I'm not. Perspective over time teaches us that don't rely on the autofocus. Get the skills and adapt those skills to what you're using.
I think it's a really valuable lesson, Nev, and I always encourage new photographers, like I mentioned earlier, to turn off all the bells and whistles.
Yeah.
Shoot in manual focus for a while. Shoot with manual aperture, manual exposure, and ISO. And even if it is the best digital camera on the market, turn all the bells and whistles off. Eye autofocus and subject tracking and just... go back to basics until you can do it in your sleep. Then you can start turning on some functions that might aid you.
Just quickly, Scott Bliss says hello to Nev from Nevada. Do you know Scott?
Hi, Scott.
Yeah, I do. I do know Scott. Scott's a friend on Facebook, and he's followed my work for a long time, and we've chatted quite extensively about all things life photography. And thanks for joining. What time is it over there, Scott?
Yeah, hi Scott. Welcome to the show.
3 p.m.
Don't mind Justin and I.
4 p.m.
Nice that you said hello to Nev.
Yeah. Hi, Scott. What? We could be friends too.
My fans are all coming to join me.
Thought so. 3 p.m.
Nevada.
Very cool.
He looks a bit like Bublé. Can you bring up that picture of Scott again, please? There's a bit of Bublé in him. Anyone else see that?
Good looking rooster.
I don't see it. Good looking rooster.
Good looking man, Scott.
Where in Nevada?
You're a rooster. That's an Australian term.
Vegas, Scott? Where are you?
Nevada, yeah.
Now,
he just shot his first funeral. Thought of Nev originally told me about that.
Yeah, I shot one. I shot a funeral. It's probably about 6 months ago, and I can't remember whether it was before my last show with you guys or not. Anyway, that's irrelevant, but it's a different experience. And I remember, and it was all funerals are sad. Yeah, it was of a man that wasn't that old who had young children. And I just remember standing there at one stage taking photos, and it just got to me and I cried while I was taking photos, tears coming down my eyes. And I just remember a beautiful moment probably about 10 minutes later when some of the people who I'd never met in my life came up to me and actually made sure I was okay. And I was okay, but just how challenging that was. And I remember this young boy coming up to me and I don't know if he was a relative or whatever, but he was about 5 or 6 and he was quite curious with what I was doing. So I gave him a job. I actually gave him a little camera, a little DJI camera just to film with, just to keep him occupied. And it was a really amazing experience. But it's definitely tough. But in reflection, it made me stronger, as not just emotionally, but as a photographer, knowing you have to really still concentrate in the moment to get what you need to get, and then your self-care stuff comes in after, obviously. But
most definitely.
It was a good experience. I would do it again if someone asked me.
Yeah. Scott's talked about his experience. Can we?
Yeah, I'll bring that one up. You can read it out, Greg.
Scott has said it was he shot his first funeral, which is something that not many of us actually do. But it was a humbling experience that reminded me how important our work is. Yeah. And it is very true, because it's our role is to document moments in time and space that won't be repeated again. And for the family, that might be a really valuable part of their self-care, part of their recollection, their memories. That, it was tragic, but look at this. All of the people who love and care about him came, and we've got
and that's actually why they did it. Yeah, the family that I worked with, they had younger children and obviously a younger family. Yeah, they wanted something for when those kids grow up. They wanted to understand, to see Dad, and in a different way. And so it was about how many people that cared about Dad in the room. So I did quite a few panning shots of the people in the room a lot. That was one of the focus key points with it, was actually capturing those as well. And that's difficult because you're photographing people who are emotional. And it's almost like there was this guilt feeling of photographing people that have got tears in their eyes. But it was challenging, definitely.
Yeah. Scott's gone on to say, yes, look at all of the people who cared about your daughter. I think that's a really, I think it's something that we probably don't think about as photographers, especially if we do events. We often look at the weddings and the engagements and the big birthday milestones and parties and those sorts of things. But I think I think that's a really admirable genre there, Scott. Well done.
Yeah, definitely. David, the drunk wedding photographer, said most of the time, the only two times our loved ones gather together in one place are weddings and funerals. And it's
very true.
And it's a very fair analogy. And as you get older, you start to reflect more, and you go to more funerals. We always joke, as you get a little bit older, you go to more funerals than you do weddings. You don't, all your friends are married and couples and stuff. But and it is a moment in time. I think you were saying, Greg, before, you're capturing a moment in time that actually doesn't get repeated, and that's incredibly important and valuable. But and now in reflection, 6 months on, I still enjoyed the experience. And that might seem an odd word to use, but you grow from each experience you do.
I think it's also humbling to be invited into a family's time of grieving, which for a lot of people can be a very dark place. To be invited into that and offered a place, to experience that and capture it, and you've got to be equally as humbled, and I guess respectful of that experience for them too. So it's a tricky gig, but hats off to you, Nev, and to Scott. I think that's really admirable. Certainly something I've never thought of. I mean, when I have regrets, when my wife passed away in 2013, and my kids were like 12 and 14, 12 and 15, I'm going to say, pretty much. And I'd never even thought about, I wasn't doing photography at the time. That came a bit later. I never thought about getting someone to document it. And it was a celebration of life. It wasn't a somber, funeral. Everyone was asked to wear colour, and it was meant to be a celebration of Isabel's life. But I never thought to get someone to record it for the kids for later. I regret.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've shared with you guys, and my mum passed away not long before I met you guys, and I chose a photo for Mum's coffin, which was a beautiful photo of the Stirling Ranges in the canola period. And so the period was that Mum was now resting in the canola because she loved to go and visit it. What's interesting is that when you prepare for a funeral, and we'll get off into some more fun, light stuff later, but the last thing I'll say on this is that the very first thing the funeral people say to you is, what photos have you got? Because they're so powerful. And they're the things that care the most. We've got some amazing funeral homes here that really they have a dedicated person who's actually, that's their job, to collate all the photos and put it together in a collage and a video. And I sat and watched this process take place with my own mum, and it actually provided healing, because I was able to just actually watch Mum's life through a set of images, which I probably never had sat and seen all those from when my mum came from Austria to Australia and all that sort of stuff. It's amazing. And then that's the memory you take with you forward, not that she died. Yeah.
Isn't it interesting though, Nev, that now it seems that the only time we do that is at the end of someone's life, that we don't necessarily put that effort into collating someone's life moments unless it's something really special. You know, we don't often do that. So it's a bit to think about there. I just want to touch base with everyone listening along and thank everyone for their comments and for watching. Please don't forget that you are watching the Camera Life podcast, and we're coming to you live from Australia, unless you're a flat earther, in which it's a sound studio in Hollywood, and brought to you proudly by Lucky Straps out of Bendigo, Victoria, handmade, often customizable leather camera straps. Please hit us up. If you've got any questions, check out the luckystraps.com website. But aside from that, we're talking to alumni of the show, Nev Clarke. Nev joined us probably about 5 months ago. You were one of our earlier relaunch guests. And it's interesting to see, guys, that in that time, Nev has experienced really lovely organic growth in his photography, not only from an employment perspective, because he still has a day job, but that he cherishes and values, but he's also branching out in the time that he has. He's learning new skills, trying new genres, pushing himself creatively. And I think there's a lot to be inspired by that story, Nev. So thank you very much for sharing it. What's on the horizons for you next?
Yeah, well, like I said, I've got some weddings coming up, so I'm really excited by that. In fact, I've got some locally and then some in Perth, which, to give you guys it's about a 5-hour drive. WA is a big state, so I've got to drive to Perth for that. But there's a company there that's going to hire me and just to shoot, so I don't do any editing. The company gets the raw images and they do all I actually love it. I just think that's great. I don't want to have to sit on the computer for the next 2 or 3 days. And obviously the money is less, but for me, that's perfect because I'm not a bad editor by any stretch, but I definitely don't want to have to edit. And the money side of it's nice to top it up a little bit. And then I've got some more group stuff coming up, and I'm going to be doing some workshops. Now, I haven't launched anything online about that yet, but I've been looking at the models around how would I do some landscape. I get a lot of people from Perth asking me, would I do a landscape workshop down in Albany? And so I'm going to do that. And there's a place called Shane's Beach, which is quite famous now for its whale watching. There's amazing whales that come every year, and the tourists just flock to see these amazing whales. So I'm thinking about a whale watching workshop with our cameras, and one of my friends owns a boat here as well, how we would get that boat over there and then do a whale watching photography lesson incorporated into one thing. So I'm really excited about that. The local caravan park is a huge fan of mine. They're just releasing some, and I haven't got one with me, otherwise I'd hold it up, but they're doing some towels that have got my photography stuff on it. I took a photo of a whale.
That's a fancy caravan park.
Yeah, they
custom
really
printed towels. Justin, why don't we have custom printed towels?
I'm writing it down. Let's do it.
And it's got my Instagram logo, so that's happening.
Wow,
and I'm just
that's awesome.
There's quite a few things happening as well, and I'm then going to try and go over to Europe with my partner. Julie, if she's watching, hello. We're going to head to Europe. She's from Germany, and I've got to fit that in as well. So it's a busy few months coming up, but I'm really looking forward to it. Lots happening.
Will you take your cameras to Europe?
Well, what do I take? I'll put it back to the audience. I've got 2 GFX cameras and an XT5. My gut feel is to take just an XT5 with maybe 2 lenses.
Yep.
But there's something about me that goes, get to Europe and there's this big scene and I haven't got my big dog with me.
You know what would be good? That rangefinder
Oh,
GFX that's coming out.
God.
See, there you go.
Easy
You
to
do
travel
need it
with.
after all.
You do need it.
Yeah.
I knew it.
You're on the payroll of Fuji, aren't you, Justin? You just don't tell anyone.
Considering I don't own one, actually, I
Yes,
own
you
the
do.
original X100 Classic,
Yeah,
the OG. But other than that, no, I don't own one. I don't think I'm on the payroll. But I know.
Yeah.
I mean, it isn't. It's
Checks in
an
the mail.
interesting. It's a thing I wrestle with for trips as well, where it's like,
Yeah, what do you take?
what do you take? But if you love shooting, you love the images you get out of the XT5. You said that you love love shooting with it.
Yeah.
So how disappointed would you be if you got the world's most amazing
all.
shot, but you shot it on the XT5 instead of on the
Not at all.
GFX?
Not at all. And I think when you go on holidays, you tend to shoot holiday style images. I'm not sort of going to go off and do a landscape day in Germany, probably because I wouldn't even know where to go. I mean, I can research it online and stuff, but I probably just want to feel. My partner's more into cityscapes, cafes, that kind of stuff. So I want to, and I've dabbled in street photography as well. And I've got to say, my partner actually taught me street photography. I had no idea. It was the one genre I'd never done. You walk down the street and go, what do you shoot? Like, it was literally that level. I had no idea. So she loves doing street photography. So we'll get onto the streets of Germany.
Nice.
And
Then
Europe
I
and-
suggest the XT5 is probably the best camera
this
for
little
that.
baby
Street
here.
photography, I go with a 23 f2, that little pancake prime. You've got your 27.
Yeah.
Is that a TT Artisan you got?
Yeah, that's a TT
2.8.
Artisan, and then,
Yep.
and then I've got a 23, which is a 35, and then I've got a 50 as well. I sold off. I had a 75 1.2, which really I bought for portraits, but now given that I've got a really nice portrait lens for the GFX, I sold that off, and I sold off my 13 millimeter 1.4 Viltrox. I just felt it was too wide. And I actually picked up a 24, which is, a 16 2.8. So that's 24, and it's just perfect. Is
that the little compact prime?
Yep.
The Fuji one? Yeah, that's one of my favorite lenses.
Don't know where it is. It's somewhere around his desk. But yeah, it's a beautiful little lens. So I've sort of got that wider range covered, and then up to 50 millimeters, and I don't think I'll need any longer than that. Given that it's 40 megapixel camera, you can crop into 100 millimeters and still get a 20 megapixel file. So that's plenty for holidays.
No, I think it's a good setup. That's like one of the first setups I took to Tokyo was an XT. I think I took an XT3 with a couple of primes.
Yep. What's interesting, I read online, and I sort of was a bit fearful of camera theft in Europe, and certain places can be quite, that if they see you lugging big GFX cameras around, they'll bail you up. So I was sort of like, okay. I'll be that guy on the news that, probably turns around and hits them with a camera and get in trouble. So
you end up in court.
Because Australians are a bit like, you want my camera, do you? Oh, yeah, you can have my camera. Yeah, no worries. Boom. So
we've all seen it on a car affair.
So I'm really excited by that. And then winter comes for us, around that sort of April, May, and I love the winter. I've really embraced winter photography down here. In fact, summer is my least favorite time of the year for my landscape stuff. It's the lights, it's too harsh. It's too hard to work with.
What's the temperature range like in winter for you guys?
It gets down to about 10 or 11 on a really wet and cold, windy day, but it doesn't snow. It snows actually in the mountain range about 80 k's north of here, once or twice a year. But it's our winters last year was quite mild, but beautiful light and clouds and some storms and stuff. So it's just magic for landscape photography. Yeah, so that's my next 6 months. It's really, really busy time. And, building my website, which I've started, and I thought about YouTube for a very short amount of time and then went, just pause on that. So lots of people have been asking me, you should do a YouTube channel, Nev. You've got so much to share. And where do I fit it in?
Well, one day.
It's tough. If you're gonna do it, you got to find a way to do it that doesn't feel hard, and it's tough. And even then, it'll start to feel hard at some point because it's just, I don't know, it's weird. So I think I certainly think getting your website up, because you don't have a website currently, is that true? No. Yeah,
no. I had one a few years ago, but it didn't get any traction. It probably wasn't a very good one, so I let it go. And yes, I'm going to build another one, and because that will help me from a business perspective, but also just from an achievement perspective as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a sense of pride to be had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was one thing we mentioned
on the last episode.
last week. Yeah, we talked about goals for 2025, and building a website was one. And I think there's a like I said, there's a real sense of achievement in creating your own site. It's your space, because on social media, you don't own the space. You don't even own your images anymore. And, depending on the sort of person you are, anyone can bombard your work in any format, good or bad, and owning your own website creates a safe space where you are in complete control of what goes on.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to be said for that. Nev, I want to circle back to a point you made earlier about doing a gig. 2 points I want to raise. First is, for anyone listening along at home, let us know what your favorite travel kit is. What's the debate like for you when you're going to travel? Are you like Justin, who takes a 2 by 3 foot Pelican case full of gear?
I traveled for 3 months with one camera.
Are you more like me, who will, walk around the streets of Tokyo with just a little X70 in his hand on a wrist strap? What do you guys take away with you when you go? What did you take when you went down to the river?
Oh, that's funny. I told you why I took everything, because then it's not at home to get stolen.
That's just a lame excuse for a man who can't make decisions.
Hey, okay, so did the 3 months with just the Q3, but anyway, carries everything.
Yeah.
I have traveled.
Camera. Yeah.
I have got a good amount of experience though, because I have traveled with everything from one camera up to full case, and I can tell you the most. I have far more often not used most of it than I have gone, fuck, I wish I'd brought that other lens. That happens almost never. And then, whereas very regularly at the end of the trip, I think I didn't need to bring all that stuff.
Yeah.
Way more common to look at it that way. Or to have that paralysis analysis of, I don't know what gear I'm going to shoot with, so I'm just going to leave it all in the hotel room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's just like there's all that shit laying there and you're not sure, and you're just like,
and you got to be out all day on your feet.
Or not even that. It's just, we're just going to get a coffee. I won't bother bringing the camera. Whereas if we're just going to get a coffee and I've only got the Q3 sitting there with a strap already on it, I just throw it over my shoulder and we walk out the door. And if I don't take a single shot, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I noticed that too. I started to do that even just with my partner and friends, that I would actually just bring my XT5 because it's small enough, just for lunch and cafes and things, just to get a feel for whether would I use it. And there were plenty of times when friends would gather and say, hey guys, let's get a photo. And, you'd capture a photo, and that portability, you're not going to lug your GFX on the table at a cafe. It just just doesn't work.
That new fixed lens rangefinder you might though.
No, that would be all right. That would be good.
That would be all right. Yeah.
The second point I want to circle back.
Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
Sorry, Nev. I was just going to say, the second point I want to circle back to is that you talked about doing a paid gig where you don't have to edit any images. And I just wanted to touch on that for a minute and see what other people think, and hear from you guys too. Around that, you're handing over control of what the finished image is going to look like. And I know we always do when we do paid gigs for commercial purposes, that we don't have the final say because it's, contractually agreeable that you're providing the raw images and they'll do what they want with them, and that's fine. You can let that go. But is there an element of you, Nev, that I know you said you don't like editing, but is there an element where you feel, oh gosh, I hope they don't mess with the final outcome too much because my name is on it?
Initially I was a bit nervous about it, but then when I thought about it what I did was, and I won't mention the company yet because we haven't got to that point, but that she was fantastic. And when I looked at the images, the style that she edited, it was pretty close to what I would do anyway. It wasn't
right.
So I could see lots of examples of what she was doing, and I don't feel she's going to butcher my work, put it that way. And if I felt that it wasn't captured in the right way, I would then probably go back to her and say, look, I think these would look better if it was this. And our wedding photography is interesting because everyone likes a different style, and they meet with the couples, and the photographer does as well. So we have a say in what style they use as well. So then that will get fed to the editor. But just from a practical time point of view, I certainly wouldn't get someone else to edit my landscape work or my product photography. But I just thought for weddings, I think it's a lot of editing. I thought, actually, this is not a bad thing. I'm going to give it a go. It's a bit of, as we say, suck it and see kind of thing. You know, let's have a play with it. Let's do a couple and then see how I feel. If I felt after that, actually, I don't want to do this because it does take away I would then speak up. But I want to give it a go. Again,
what about you, Justin?
Trying to come with something different.
So when I used to shoot a lot of weddings, we even experimented with using outsourced editing. We even towards the end, we experimented with using AI editing. As it's really AI editing's really glorified preset stuff. Yeah. It's like it's our preset. It essentially just gets it slightly closer, but you still have to. You can't just hand those files over. You still got to go through one by one and actually tweak them to what they're supposed to be.
Well, current gen AI editing platforms was just updated not long ago, and they now offer AI learning. So you feed it a couple of thousand images, and it will learn from that already edited images, and it will cull and group.
Yeah,
your wedding shoot.
Most of that, in my experience, wasn't amazing either. The culling and stuff like that. It would certainly do some stuff, but it was too. There was too much potential for missing something or whatever, and then you have to basically go through it all anyway to see whether it missed something, and it was just not wonderful. But in terms of letting go of that editing, it was tough. We struggled to find an outsourced editing company that could ever do exactly what we wanted done. They could certainly do the heavy lifting of the bulk work, and then we'd still go through every image and do what we wanted to do. Even to the point of like some of the stuff for us that's more like with weddings, it's more important than editing. What most people deem as editing, which is like color. There's color correction, apply a preset, do color correction, get your exposure correct. That stuff for us, like we don't do artistic editing on 99% of wedding shots. 99% of them are, is the white balance correct? Not in the sense that it makes the wedding dress perfectly white with the eyedropper tool, but in the sense that their skin tones and everything look the way they should look in that situation. Whereas if you just do skin dropper tool on the white balance tool on wedding dresses, you're going to end up with stuff that just looks perfectly white, even though the situation doesn't call for a perfectly white wedding dress, you know, if it's got a warm glow or something like that. So it's like, make it look the way that it's supposed to look and feel, make the exposure, in my mind, what I would call correct for that situation. And then it's really looking at them from a point of view of like crop, straighten, obviously. And then is there anything that's going to make them disappointed in this image that we need to remove? And in Australia, a big one of those is flies. Like,
I've got a funny fly story.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Done a couple of farm weddings, and you sit there and you pick them off one by, and there's no fly editor.
80 of them on the back of a groom as they're walking away, you know, into a beautiful sunset or something like that. And that is the stuff that it's like, if the couple wanted it, we would leave them all and to show something, but no one wants that for their whole day. No one.
Who asked the flies though? No one asked the flies' opinion.
Well,
blatant discrimination.
Anyway, this is a very long-winded answer to the question of I would happily have someone edit my photos if it was pretty straightforward, and sometimes you're even pleasantly surprised by the way it looks. You know, it's like you take it and then you don't see it, and then it's done, and you're like, "Fuck yeah, that photo looks great." and you didn't have to do anything. It's just someone brought it to life with their artistic vision as a collaborator on what you've done, and I think that's pretty cool. But it does get tricky when they don't do what you would do. And we never found the ability to kind of completely replace us in that process to where we would be happy. But it was,
Dave, editing on the fly. Very nice, mate. Very nice.
Scott's got a good point, actually, two good Scott comments, but we'll start with this one because it's relevant to this stuff. Scott Bliss says, I've done one job with raw delivery only, and I was okay with it because it wasn't a particularly artistic endeavor. It was a ribbon cutting for a new building. 100%. A lot of people get caught up with like the raws and never deliver the raws and all that sort of stuff. I've delivered tons of raws. I don't care. Like it's a ribbon cutting. It's a It's
a transaction, isn't it?
It's a
product for a price. Yeah.
If they want them, whatever. I'm not. If it's one of my favorite shots of all time, maybe I would want some more context around why they want the raws and all that kind of stuff. But we've done it tons of times. Lots of marketing agencies have in-house graphos that want to work with the raw file, even though they're probably not as good at color and stuff with photos sometimes, but that's what they want to work with. And it's like, they're paying whatever. I don't care. And it's probably wrong in the commercial photography sense. I think a lot of high-end commercial photographers charge a lot more for raw delivery than they do for edited. But yeah.
Well, it's a different level of permission you're giving, isn't it?
It is, but it's also like, for what? Like it says, if it's for ribbon cutting and I don't have to edit the files,
and I don't care about them,
and I don't care about the files, and what if they take these raws and they edit it and put it on a billboard? Well, good on them. But I'm not a high-end commercial photographer, and if you're talking about like some of the guests we've had that basically come up with an entire campaign for tens of thousands of dollars, that's different, and that's where they have a much better understanding of that sort of side of the world that I don't really understand. But for me, more than happy to hand off raw files for smaller jobs like that if they've got a genuine reason for them. I'll usually say, would you like us to supply edited files as well, because we have quite a good color correction process. That's if I'm unsure if they're going to be able to do it very well, because half the time they end up using the edited files anyway instead of the raws.
What's interesting, I read an article on this, and I think I've a couple of times given a client some raw files because they asked, and when you're still finding your way, you weigh it up. And what was interesting to come back from that client, the one particular client, they weren't unhappy with what I had done. They just wanted to see if they could maybe do better, and that's fine. They actually came back about 2 days later and said, oh my gosh, we didn't realize how much work was involved to get it to that. And you can have them back and you do your job and we're all sweet. They just found that it was actually really time consuming. And then, because as I'm sure people listening to the show, most of us are shot from raw to a finished product. It's a bit like cooking. We're not grabbing the HJ burger. We're actually going from that to final product. So it's creation. It's a whole bunch of things that you mentioned. That takes time. And I think once people get a sense of that, they actually don't want the raws anymore. It's different from an editing company perspective. That's just, they have a person that edits photos. That's different. But I'm talking about clients that may ask you for a raw image because they think they can do better than they... I think it's interesting because I would shoot with the GFX 100S2, and they're big files. So I did say to the lady, you better have a fast computer because
you're going to be spinny wheel of death.
Your RAM's going to suffer no matter what.
But yeah, it's an interesting point you make, Justin, about that. It's, and it sort of leads into maybe another question, if I can ask this question to the audience. What do people think about, what do they get out of photography? Are they an end product person where they love the image? Is it about the image, or is it more about the experience? Or is it I think for a lot of us, probably a combination of all three. I love the shooting bit still. I still love that bit. But I still love the final product too. But I probably say I enjoy the experience more than I do the final product.
Yeah. I think there's balance, and balance doesn't always have to be 50-50 split of time and dedication and thinking. Like it can be, you know, a 70-30 split where 70% of the time you're enjoying the experience and 30% of the time, you know, it's for me, it's the end-to-end process. I do love the shooting experience because it gets me out into the world as a, you know, predominantly a street travel photographer. But I also like the editing process. I love shutting out the world, putting on some headphones with some good music and going through my images and go, oh, wow, I didn't think that would work out, but it worked out. I'm going to clean that up and I'm going to make that black and white, add some grain and call it art. You know, like that's my favorite trick of most of my photos.
Yeah. I discovered something really interesting too, was working with some of the young people at the youth centre doing photography there. And we ran about an 8 to 10 week program. We've got another one starting in February. And what I gained out of that, when we printed the images at the end and held a little mini exhibition, and just seeing the looks on their faces of what they created, that gave me way much joy than any image I've probably taken in the last, I don't know how long. Just seeing that, I get a lot out of, and maybe I'm different, but it's people, photography can be a very, I say lonely journey, but a very self-centric journey because it's us and the camera and then the post at the end of it. So this was different in the fact that I got to see the joy of other photographers that I played a part in, a small part, you know.
Yeah, that's lovely.
For me, I got a buzz out of that, huge buzz, just like I was just like standing there feeling really proud. Yeah.
Which is probably why you should continue doing photography education and workshops.
Workshops are in your future, Nev. It sounds like that's going to be a big driver for you.
And I actually find it relatively easy because I've got good people skills as well as photography knowledge. So there's plenty of great photographers, but they don't know how to transcend what the camera tend to the people. I've got a bit of both from my background. So no,
I think it's certainly worth exploring.
A couple of quick comments and questions coming in. Firstly, Paul
Go
Henderson.
for it, J-Dog.
That's me. Paul Henderson says, luckily for me, I enjoy the experience, and if by some chance or fluke I get a shot, it's a bonus. Yeah, agree?
Yeah.
That's
needs to come to a workshop of mine.
Ricardo Saravia says, where are you from, Ricardo? Says, Justin, do you use aperture priority in weddings? I don't. We always use manual. We experimented with aperture priority occasionally. What I did use every now and then was auto ISO. Back when I was shooting Nikons, the auto ISO feature worked pretty well. And I would use that when, say, going from inside to outside of a ceremony, you know, you're going from this dimly lit chapel to outside bright light, and you're following them out, and you just wanted it to quickly auto change or something like that. But most of the time I found that because I shoot a lot of my stuff backlit, I don't know whether that's just lazy to try and make things look better, but I would always put the sun behind the couple. You're always having to bring the exposure up a little bit from what the camera would want to meter. But then if you then quickly turned around to shoot something else, it would be metering in the other direction on auto. So it was like, I'm having to change the exposure compensation anyway. I might as well just control my settings. So we would be, depending on what was happening, we'd be pretty constantly locked on an aperture. We shot a lot of stuff fairly wide, like f2 or wider with primes. And then we'd set our shutter speed for whatever the appropriate, like it was, our shutter speed was always 320 or above, depending on what the situation was, above if we needed to crush some more light. And then we would just ride our ISO, depending on the lighting changing. So I was riding my ISO with my thumb the same way you would ride exposure compensation in aperture priority. So for me, manual was faster and better controlled, and Jim's the same. He still does that now. So yeah, no aperture priority for us, but it can work really well, and I think a lot of people do use it.
It's a great question, Ricardo, and a great answer, J-Dog.
Oh, thanks. Oh, and Ricardo is from Guatemala in Central. Really? That's cool. That's really
welcome, Claybo.
Yeah, we'll have to come visit.
Yeah.
Global.
Hey, Lucky Straps road trip.
Mr. Worldwide. Yeah, definitely Lucky Straps road trip. After we go to Japan, I think that'd be pretty sweet too.
Hit the subscribe button, people. Hit the subscribe. Yeah.
Yeah, just on that, just before we proceed with the next comment, just a reminder to everyone, and thank you to everyone who's following along home or work, wherever you may be today. And don't forget that these podcasts, they are on the channel live today, but they will also, all the back catalogue is there from last year. And there's also audio podcasts available on popular audio podcast streaming platforms. So yes, please subscribe, because this year is going to be the year of the Camera Life. We already have the next 12, 13, 14 weeks booked solid with guests from a diverse range of backgrounds, experiences, genres, you name it.
Awesome.
We're also looking at maybe adding some other shows, some other extra bit shows here and there, and doing a couple of collaborations with some other channels. So stick around. It's going to be worth your while. And yeah, so please like, subscribe, tickle the bell.
If you or a photographer, if you follow a photographer that you think would be great on the show, hit us up. I don't know, you can DM us on Instagram or just email me, justin@luckystraps.com.au. That's justin@luckystraps.com.au. Email me if there's a photographer that you think we should have on, or if you think you're interesting enough to come on. You probably are. Yeah, tell us.
But don't get that confused with his other email address, which is jdog@onlyfans.
Oh yeah. Also, subscribe to my OnlyFans. All right, now this is a question for the Fuji shooters of the group from Scott Bliss. I'm also a Fuji X guy and often feel disappointed with my results in astrophotography, crop sensor, which I most often attempt during travel to national parks. Has Nev had a better experience than me with the XT5?
I've only done one astro shoot, but I would say it comes down to lens choice, and I can't remember, Scott, what lens you had, but the 13 Viltrox 1.4, I think it is, would be my lens choice. There's a guy that's friends on Facebook with me, and he's quite active on the Fuji social media pages, and he does a lot of astro. I'm going to get him to connect with you. His name's Justin Hoffman. He's actually in Europe at the moment. Justin, if you're watching, hello. And he's a really good astro photographer, and he says you can make the Fuji gear work for astro. So I'm going to get him to connect with you, Scott, because I think he can show you some stuff that maybe is beyond my scope. But in terms of general photography, that camera, and why I've kept it, is that it really did. Everything changed in my photography when I went to the XT5. I think it's often not about the camera. It's just about, does that camera gel with the way you shoot, experience, what you like to see? For me, it was more about, it was almost like a connection of the minds. That camera worked for me. It does have limitations like all crop sensor cameras do. Yep, noise is always an issue, but I think the denoise software is so good now that noise can be easily fixed in post, and not to the point where you get plastic faces.
Or lose stars.
Or lose stars.
Lightroom thinks they're dust spots, or noise spots, not, grain, not actual.
And from what the astro guys tell me, there's a really good astro photographer here in Albany. He's saying to me, he said to me a few times, he said, Photoshop's better than Lightroom and Affinity, and there's one other one, Capture One. He's a big Photoshop guy for astro. He says the editing, the way it renders in editing, is much better with Photoshop. So that's another tip that and he's a very good astro photographer. I'd love to get him on the show, actually. He's an older guy, but he's amazing. He's
send me his details. I'll reach out to him.
Yeah, Mike Lyons, his name is. He's actually a local dentist. He's a great guy. I haven't shot with him.
Oh yeah, I think you've mentioned Mike before.
Yeah. So, to answer a very long answer, I know, but I've been super, super happy. But yes, it does. And how did I end up in GFX land was very much what I've just said. Is I got to a point where I felt like I was a bit limited with the XT5. Fuji don't make a full frame camera, so what do? You go medium format. So, and I do think that that's part of Fuji's not strategy, but their way is they don't make a full frame camera. So you either stay there or you jump over there, and
that is very much their strategy.
Yeah.
Which is a great
And that's
strategy because
And I think they're going to stick to it.
we don't need another full frame
No.
brand to go alongside the other three main ones. We don't. It's not that they'd all just be doing the same thing. Although a lot of people would obviously love Fuji's bodies, their body ergonomics and colors and stuff.
Yeah.
That's true, but we don't really need just another, the same. But so on you obviously it's got crop sensor with 40 megapixels for night, like high ISO. Long exposure photography is you're sort of pushing up against something that's it's not the ideal camera for those like that situation, but certainly as Nev said, you just need to let as much light in as possible. So that if you could get a lens that was going to let nice wide lens that was going to let a ton of light in, that what was it, 13mm f1.4. 1.4, 1.8, something like that.
1.4.
That's going to give you the best chance to get cleaner files. Because obviously the wider the lens, the longer you can leave it open without getting star trails, still keeping pinpoint stars. I would suggest going to Richard Taddy's YouTube channel, Nightscape Images, and find some of his videos that he's done where it's like nightscape photography with a standard camera and kit lens. He's done a few videos where he's got like a Canon whatever 650D and one of those 18 to 55 kit lenses that's like an f4.5 at the wide end or something, and he'll show you how he shoots with not the ideal gear for the situation and can still get good results. Find some videos like that and just see if there's anything that he's recommending that you haven't tried yet.
And as fate would have it, not that I believe in fate, but as fate would have it, Richard Taddy's joining us next week.
Next week,
awesome. Justin.
Yeah. How good.
Hey.
Last time I think our Richard Taddy episode was like almost 4 hours. It was insane.
Oh, yeah, I think he said to me he likes to chat.
He's got too much knowledge in his brain. And he's put most of it on his YouTube channel for free. Yeah. So,
it'll be a refreshing change for me.
It's so funny.
And Shane Wookie, he said just got the 13 Viltrox for that purpose. So let us know how you go, Shane. Stick around and let us know in the coming weeks how you go with it. It'd be interesting to hear. And obviously to see some of your shots.
I was running a little small group workshop, and I said to this guy, I was shooting with my X-T5, beautiful camera. He was shooting with a little Sony RX camera that I gave him just to use because he was a phone shooter. And I said to him, here, have a play with the X-T5. And I gave him the better camera and I shot with the thing. And he said, going up into the better camera actually presented more challenges. And often with people is you can go to much higher gear, but the higher you go in specs on your gear with megapixels and features and stuff, it's a bit like that analogy. I remember reading a comment by a photographer, you better know how to drive that Ferrari. So it's often finding the right gear for the right job, finding what you can get the most out of your gear. I would say, and I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but 80% of the features on your camera, you probably don't even know what they do. Has anyone ever gone through a whole menu and actually worked out what every single thing does?
Yeah, Justin has.
Probably Justin. I would say I know about 75%.
I used to read the paper manual. They stopped providing the paper manual, which kind of bugs me. Obviously, they're trying to save paper, but that was just what I did. I was like, because otherwise, sometimes you don't know what you're not looking for, or you don't know, and then you read it and you're like, one day when you're having trouble or you're trying to do something, it just pops in your brain. You're like, oh yeah, there was a thing that did something like that. I'll try that.
Or worse, if you don't know it's there, and then all of a sudden you find it's there 3 years later.
Yeah, you're like,
you go, what all this time?
Yeah. So
I
would read your manuals, guys.
Yeah, read your manuals. Or scan that QR code, whichever it is. Yeah. They put QR codes on the boxes now, don't they? Or even on the back of the camera screen.
And look, it is good to be able to access a digital manual and all that sort of stuff, but I don't know why. I just like to just sit there with the book and just read through it.
But you like paper books too. You still love buying physical books, don't you?
Not a ton of them. Like I would still listen to an audiobook over a paper book in terms of for like a long read. But for a manual, having it page by page, I don't know, seems to make more sense to me than I just won't sit there with a phone and read a full manual. I'll just go from section to section depending on
I can't do much on my phone. It just doesn't work. Other than doom scrolling, I don't do much.
Doom scrolling.
I don't do much on my phone at all. And I've actually reverted, and I think more so because of my eyesight. And I've only got a smaller, I don't even know what one this is. I've only got a smaller iPhone. I don't have the Mac screen. So I've been, because I have my MacBook Pro for my editing and this stuff and writing. But I've been using my iPad more now for accessing content, information that I need to study or know, or because it's just a nice, slightly bigger than paperback size, like one of those bigger trade paperback size. I like that.
Trade paperback.
Trade paperback is the bigger size paperback book. So you've got the standard ones that are about that size, and then you've got the. That means nothing to everyone.
Yeah, like you've got the little novel size, and then you've got the size that a lot of the bookshops sell.
Yeah,
for
this
the
is
more...
trade paperback. This is my sister's book, but this is trade's paperback.
Cool
size. It's bigger.
Speaking of books, that's my next kind of thing that I want to do, and a local news agency has approached me to look into doing a book, because we have a lot of the tourist, the cruise ships come, and often tourists are offering, is there a book about with Albany in it? And there was one from a few years ago, but they didn't republish it. But so I'm just looking into publishing and how you go about that. So if there's anyone out there in the internet world that knows a little bit about publishing, please send me a direct message on Instagram or Facebook. I know Amazon do, I know they can be a bit of the, but Amazon do self-publishing as well, and some other companies as well. I'd love to learn, because that is my next thing. I think my images would actually make a beautiful coffee table book. So that's something.
No doubt. I just helped my sister publish her second book. She writes a lot about mental health.
Great.
And mental health and mental illness. And I just helped her publish her second book in Kindle, and it was quite straightforward. A couple of little formatting challenges, but it was mostly text. But you can either use their platform that helps you build the publication, right down to the QR codes and the US. What is it? What's the book number? BSN? Is that what it is? Every book has a BSN. All that stuff. It does it for you. Or you can actually just upload a PDF version of your book into their platform. So there's a couple of different ways to do it, but there's a bunch of other sites. I've published some of my photography books from my trips to Japan. I just self-published those. ISBN. Thank you, Matt.
Matt
great.
and Scott. They're right.
I'm writing that
Thanks,
down.
guys.
I'm writing it. Thank you for that. I'm writing that down.
Oh, there you go. Matt Talks Photography. Know a little bit about publishing. Happy for my email to be passed on by Justin. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Or direct message me on Insta if you want, Matt. Just send me a direct message on Instagram as well. You can do that.
I'll hook you up.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome. That's the great thing about the world now, isn't it? The internet, we can just share and gain knowledge and help each other out. It's great.
Post photos of our feet if you're a J-Dog.
OnlyFans feet. Oh, my gosh.
Only feet.
Money in that.
Hey, look, how do you think he afforded that Leica?
Yeah, that's right.
Hey,
Only feet.
hey, only feet.
Hey, I saw something weird this morning
What did you see?
on Petapixel. I need to show you. I wonder if you've seen this, Greg, in your newsing.
Which bit was it?
Check this out. So this is for people in the US only, so don't get excited unless you're in the US. Maybe some of our US listeners can test this out before they run out or whatever. So basically, this company, Oda, has launched these graphics. Look terrible.
Shocking photos.
They've launched these slim card holders for SD cards and micro SD cards that fit in your wallet. So like this. See this? So they've launched it, and what they're saying, basically, you can purchase it for $0, and shipping in the US is free too. Oh, maybe we can do it from other countries and you have to pay for shipping. I don't know, but so in the States, $0 and $0 shipping, they'll send you this. And basically what they're saying is, why free? Instead of burning money on ads showing you how good our card holder is, we'd figure we'd just give it to you for free.
Huh.
Which makes no sense because
How
obviously
are they
they're
paying
losing money. I'm assuming it's a way they want to launch more products in the future. This is their first product. I'm assuming this is a way for them to acquire customer email addresses and stuff like that at what is a lower calculated cost than doing ads.
So it helps them build a client base. Yeah.
Scott's saying that only the 8 micro SD model is available. Maybe they sold out of the other one.
So that's that one you're looking at now.
Yeah, 8 micro SDs instead of. Anyway, I just thought it was super interesting that it's like instead of wasting money on ads, we're just going to give them away for free. But yeah, my only theory is that it can be just a way to acquire email addresses and stuff for future product launches for products that will be a bit more expensive. Maybe they'll do camera bags or something like that. But
maybe they think it'll buy consumer confidence and loyalty and goodwill.
Yeah,
which it would.
I mean, hey, it's a good strategy if they can, if the products are good. So yeah.
Have you ever thought of doing leather lucky SD card pockets?
Have. Yeah, definitely.
Not to raise that this should be competition for you, but just out of curiosity.
No, they'd be a little different to this anyway. This is a novel idea of like, hey, it just goes in your normal wallet, and it's so thin it should fit in like a credit card kind of pocket or something like that. That's pretty clever. But no, if we did it, we would do something that's a bit more of a complete solution, its own pocket and stuff like that. Again, it's like a lot of the stuff, we want to do it, but we just haven't had the production capacity to prioritize that over camera straps. But yeah, it is most certainly on the radar. I was also, after we talked about film last week, I was looking at the film that I've got in my fridge, and I was like, I'd love to do some film accessories. That's definitely, it used to be, I had a big list of stuff that we wanted to make, little, film holders and belt pouches and all that kind of stuff. It kind of dropped off the radar, but I have been, since we spoke last week, I've been thinking about film. I don't think I want to buy disposable cameras for it. So I need to either decide, do I need to get an appropriate Nikon lens for the Nikon film bodies that I've got, or do I find another film body to play with? And then obviously I went down the Leica rabbit hole. They're impossible to buy secondhand. I just wanted to find a secondhand something, but there's just nothing around.
Oh, well, you'll have to go new again.
Do you know how much they are? It's freaking outrageous for a body that has no sensor in it. It's just got a hole where there's
some shitty cameras.
It's cumbersome.
I actually think just quickly, there's a challenge for a camera company is to make a hybrid film and digital camera that you could do both.
Fujifilm have already done it.
Have they?
What, the Instax?
Yeah.
The Instax digital hybrid.
Yeah, but
no, I'm not talking about printing. I'm talking.
I don't care what you're talking about, Nev.
No,
they've already done it.
They only did that to try and pump up their numbers in the camera thing.
Camera sales. Yeah.
Come on, Fuji, get onto it.
It's an interesting idea.
It's an interesting idea, but what's the benefit of that? Like, why would you do that?
The experience.
So if you ran out of film, you could continue shooting. Is that what you're thinking now?
I think the experience. It's interesting because the local high school here still used film up until 3 years ago. They were the last high school in Australia, and there's a big long story to that which I won't go into. Let's save it for the episode that I'm on next in a year's time. I helped build a darkroom for where I learnt photography. I actually physically built the darkroom, and they maintained that darkroom until 3 years ago, shooting film. And the kids were devastated when they went to digital.
Yeah.
So it had a culture of film photography. Not devastated in the sense that that they weren't going to enjoy digital photography. They were, but it just had a different way. So I still think, I mean, look, it's popular. Vinyl's popular. Things that are old are popular, and
But why hybrid though? I feel like hybrid's going to cost way more. Like, wouldn't you be better having digital cameras and film cameras? It'd probably be cheaper to have two separate ones than to have one that tries to do both. Because trying to jam all of that and do I don't even know how they'd get the sensor out of the way of the film. It would be very difficult. I don't know. You could have different.
Maybe
backs,
the sensor sits on the top, and
like a reflex mirror.
What the sensor does is it reads like a normal digital camera. Then that imparts the image onto the film. Maybe I don't know. I'm not a techie, but I think it would be
interesting concept, Nev.
Really cool idea. Something different. Fuji, because I think we're getting to that stage with cameras that are coming out. You're seeing this plateauing effect where there's just, I thought with that latest Sony lens, that's the 28 to, not latest, but 28 to 70. So they knocked off 4mm at the wide end to f2, but it's this big hulking heavy thing. That's where we're getting to now. We're getting to this tweaking stage of trying to get gear better, but no one's going, hey, let's do something completely different. Let's.
Well, that's where Pentax did well. Ricoh, what was it? The T7 came out last year. The half frame film camera. I thought that was ingenious.
I
don't know how it's sold, but
I just thought, I'm like, where is not half frame, just the regular 35mm? Like, what do I buy now if not a Leica M6 for freaking 9 or 10 grand or whatever it is, plus a lens? If I just want a really nice 35mm film camera that's new, what do I buy? Why isn't there one for 2 grand? Surely someone could make money on that.
I think there was rumors that someone was looking at going backwards with one. Was it Pentax? A full frame 35mm? Or was it, and maybe even OM Systems, Olympus were looking at going backwards a bit, or the old Olympus, where they were looking at, someone was. But, it's a good question. But I think, for like photo challenge, like we talked about last week, grabbing a disposable film camera is a quick and easy option. It's not the best option, but it does strip away all the fancy bits and just make it about exposure and composition.
It is cool. Yeah, it's definitely cool. I'm like, if I'm going to do it, I've got film sitting here already. And I'd like just slightly better optics and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be a fancy camera, but just, something with a 35mm, whatever, f2 or 1.8 lens on it. Just something just nice, clean, whatever camera.
I'll send you this over, mate. You can have a play.
Thanks.
This is an Olympus 35 PC that I actually got. Albany's got a lot of op shops. We've got op shops galore over here, and I often see these sitting in op shops, and I just grab them. So I've sort of got a collection of. I'll just box them all over, and you can have a play.
I've got a few kicking around that I've bought in similar ways, but I'm pretty sure most of them don't work, and I'm often reluctant to blast a roll of film through and pay for it to get developed. It works. You've tested it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Scott says he ordered one of those SD card things. He said they had the SD model available in the salmon color, free product and shipping too. So good tip.
Wow.
I'm glad someone got one. You'll have to let us know how it goes.
Let us know. It's an interesting approach, isn't it?
Yeah.
To market a product. Make it free.
We're not like that in Australia, aren't we? We're not like in Australia we give something away for free to get people to use it. We just don't do that here. Culturally, we're different.
I don't know. Youth centres give away condoms.
That's true.
It works too.
That's right up your neighbourhood there.
Yeah, it does. It's funny because if you give somebody something, they will, for free, they generally will. Some people, a certain percentage will use it. I've been long advocating free public transport. If you had transport that was public transport, it was free everywhere, right across Australia, more people would use it. The whole having to get a card and log on and punch it into your phone and use your phone, that's actually a barrier to using it. So if you had it free, more people would use it, have less people on the roads. And
we certainly, if we go to Melbourne, we certainly use the free city tram network. And how much would we use it otherwise? We'd possibly still use it, but maybe not as much. But it's just when you know that you don't have to do anything, you just step on it.
Cool. My son has got
just one last comment before we wrap. This is from Shane Wookie in Melbourne. My 16-year-old has gone straight to film. For Xmas, I got them a 1978 Nikon FE SLR. You're a good dad.
Wow.
Hey,
How do I get adopted?
Tell me this: what lens did you get it with a lens, and also, like, roughly how much is something like that these days on the second-hand market? Because the prices seem to just be going up and up for decent film gear. So tell me.
Well, film's making a comeback. That's the thing.
It is, but that's what's weird, that there isn't, like, where is the, there's all these Leica M compatible lenses from, like, TT Artisans and Voigtlander and all this stuff. There's all these rangefinder M lenses that are reasonably priced, that are like copies of Leicas that are decently priced. That's right, isn't it? Like, I've seen tons of them that you can buy from TT Artisans and stuff like that go onto an M mount.
Yep.
Why isn't there an M mount film camera that's been ripped off by someone?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like,
I think there's fear. I think there's a legacy of fear in the industry, because when film died and digital took over, it was so sudden that it financially ruined most companies for a long time. Fujifilm had to hang on by retooling their factories to make cosmetics. They already had the color science and the technology and the understanding around chemicals to make film, that they actually flipped when film died and became a cosmetic company, because they could use much of the same processes and practices and facilities that they already had. And that's how Fujifilm survived the decline of film, because they were peaking. They were building facilities all over the world to make film. And then all of a sudden it all came crashing down. So I think there is a legacy of fear amongst camera brands that, film's making a comeback, but it's done it before, and then it fades off again. And I don't think they're quite ready to invest in what they probably seem as a risky business model.
Yeah, okay. It just seems to me like it would be a far easier product to make, a manual focus film camera, than any digital camera. Like, it's
even just a fixed lens, 35 mil, a decent quality one.
Well, there
with
is
a proper light meter.
There is that Diana one. Is it Diana? What is that one? The 35 mil camera from is it? So there's one from the 35 millimeter film co, but that's not the one.
Just while you're looking that up. So Scott said, I used to work in Rochester, New York, the home of Kodak, and everyone still talks about the detriment of digital photography to the local economy. So it's not just the businesses, but it's obviously also affecting the societies around those businesses, the families, the people that are employed, all of that stuff. There's a legacy there. There's generational impact.
This is it. The Nana.
You're a Nana.
Yeah, I am. Present, share screen. I don't know anything about this camera, so if anyone knows something about it, let me know. But semi-auto 35 millimeter film point and shoot reusable camera.
Is it a new model?
It's from Film Never Die. I don't know how new it is.
It's looking. It's got a YouTube channel. It's
a bit like a Yashica. That little lens.
So I don't know what the deal is. I don't know how good it is.
Well, you get one of those and give it a shot.
I don't want.
If you're watching from Film Never Die and you want to get some exposure around this little camera, obviously we're the best photography podcast in the country, if not the world. Send one to Justin and he'll send you a strap in exchange.
Yeah.
Sorry, just
rightly
so.
The drunk weddings photographer has said $350. Keep in mind that's $350 Australian dollars. So it's like $9 US. No, it's not really, but it's probably 200 to 220 or 30 or 40 US, somewhere around there. So it's not as much, but it is probably still a lot for what is essentially a point and shoot, and I don't know how good the optics and stuff are on it.
Yeah,
but,
you'd want to get it. Well, they need to get it in people's hands. I've never heard of it. I'm not saying that I'm the oracle of photography.
You're a big
but
deal.
I've got my ear to the ground, and I've never heard of this. So they need to get it in people's hands. Dare I say influencers? but more
Shane says
appropriately, real photographers.
$400 for the Nikon FE with a 50mm 1.8 manual. Sounds like a pretty good deal. Probably a better buy than this point and shoot. Really, if you're into shooting and you want to have some control. So,
but for anyone listening on home, just before we wrap on the day, if you're shooting film, what camera are you using? What have you heard? Yeah, let us know.
What should I buy? So tell me this. I would ideally like a M6 with a 28mm and a 50mm, but because I need to not sell my van, I need to find an alternative that's not roughly 15 to 20,000 Australian dollars.
One arm and two legs to pay for it. Yeah.
What should I buy for a great film shooting experience? What I'd actually really like is to find a Canon 1V, the last film camera that they made. I do really enjoy shooting with the film SLRs because they're so familiar to me and the ergonomics and stuff. And I know it's not old, but I really like them. So maybe I could get a 1V and then like the Canon EF 50mm 1.2 lens that you can kind of get secondhand these days, pretty decent price. And that was a very cool lens.
One last comment, just from the drunk wedding photographer.
Wrote a massive blog post.
Okay. He wrote a blog post about this. The Nikon F75 will set you back $30 which is about 490 Australian at the moment. Has all the features of the F6.
Okay.
You should look into one of those. And he's written a blog.
I do have. I've got these Nikons. I've got the F100 as well. I just have to buy a lens for it. I didn't know if I wanted to buy another Nikon lens, but maybe I should just do that. I've got those cameras.
If you find one cheap.
Work. Yeah, it's probably a better idea. Okay, back to the drawing board.
See if there's someone that's have a chat to Greg Carrick. He's probably got 6 lenses for it.
That's true.
You should.
Greg, if you're watching, and there are film photography groups now on Facebook as well. Like there's
I don't do a lot of social media.
No, he's not very social. To be honest.
This is my whole social media right here. It's actually great because the comments come in.
I'm his only friend.
It all happens in the space of a couple of hours, and then I log off, and it doesn't happen again until next week.
He's exhausted after this.
This is
cries. He cries into his soup every night.
Yep. I'm not a social media kind of person.
But look, on that note,
I
think we're going to draw the close to an end. But before we do, I just want to highlight a couple of important announcements. One is that you're listening to the Camera Life podcast, coming to you live from Australia every week. And stay tuned because we will have more news very, very soon about upcoming guests and additional upcoming content for your earballs and eyeballs.
Did you say Richard Taddy next week?
Richard Taddy next week.
If you're into astrophotography in any way, any cameras, he shoots with, I think he shot with Nikon and Sony, but like he has ran so many workshops, he can answer questions about, I would guess, any camera system for astro. He does the tracking, he does untracked, he does light painting, he does every style you can think of. I don't know if he's ever done film, but anyway.
I'm sure he has at some stage.
Stick around for that next week. Will be amazing.
The other, in coming weeks, we've got Glenn Lavender, who we met up at BFOP. We've got Mikey Boynton. We've got Richard, as we've said. We've got Brent Lukey, Alex Frayne, Ben Lawrence. These are names that I've been tracking down. Dan Paris, William Goodard. Godwood. Sorry, William. Got that wrong. Anyway, we've got lots going on in the show in the coming months. And in fact, 2025 is going to be our year to shine. We've made great plans and we intend to see them through. So thanks so much for watching. But most importantly, I want to thank our guest, returning guest, and probably one of our best fans of the show is Nev Clarke. So thank you, Nev.
Thanks, Nev.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely.
It's been great.
It's been an absolute delight. And to see your journey, that organic journey that you've sustained, even just in the past few months since we last spoke. I mean, you and I are often conversing on socials. But yeah, really impressive. I'm really happy for you, mate. You should be proud of yourself. It's a beautiful way to discover what you can do with your craft.
And I just wanted to share, and I was holding this camera. This was my mum's camera. And my mum taught me everything about photography, which is just an amazing journey that my mum, I sat on beaches and mum gave me this little film camera to shoot with, which funnily enough, it still works. And this was the journey that started. And I would urge anyone out there just to pick up a camera from wherever, go to an op shop, get a $20 camera, buy it and shoot. Go out, play,
that's
create.
So cool.
That's the way to do it.
That's just, it's not about what we shoot, what we do, and those skills come later on. Just go out, shoot, enjoy, breathe the air. Yeah. Because it's good for you. Good for us all.
So
thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks, Dan.
It's our pleasure indeed. Justin, what have you got the weekend? Any plans?
No plans. Nothing exciting. No, just
bit of R&R.
Yeah, a bit of work at the moment. Got some things I'm trying to achieve, making progress. It's good. It's going to be a good year for Lucky as well as the Camera Life. So we actually got to come up with a new logo for this podcast too. We're getting something cool made. So if anyone's a really good logo designer, hit us up.
Let us know or refer someone to us. We'd love to
look
keep
good
it in
on
the community.
T-shirts. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And if you can incorporate mega pickles or sloppy segways, I will love you even more.
Anything. We've got a whole line of T-shirts to come for the podcast.
Yep.
Yeah, we need to get some caps. And Instagram and merch on the back.
It's coming. I've actually got. I want to make a new Lucky shirt that just says "fuck Temu." I'm very excited about it. I haven't seen them done before, and I think it will suit our Australian-made philosophy.
I think it will indeed. I think it will be.
That's coming.
Nice. Look forward to the merch store, everyone.
Careful about the lawsuit that's coming, but that's okay. Well,
bring it on. I'll take him on.
Well, being Temu, they'll probably try to sue for like 59 cents.
They'll just rip it off. They'll just rip it off and sell it themselves. It'll arrive and it'll be like this big.
Very
it'll be
true.
like a baby shirt. But no, nothing exciting. Nothing exciting this weekend. Just laying low, doing some work.
Yep.
And
I've got a bit of work to do myself. And I've got a couple of gigs coming up at camera clubs, doing some presentations, some street walks, some talks.
Cool.
Which is good. I'm looking forward to it. I did a little bit of that last year, but it's starting to ramp up again, which is always nice. I love spreading the photography love. But yeah, other than that, still haven't picked up my camera much. I did take some product photos of a couple of products I'm reviewing for ShotKit, but I haven't been out and done street photography in too long. So I need to do something like we talked about last week, set myself some challenges and some goals. But anyway, that's enough about me crying into my soup. On that note, I want to thank Nev once again. Thank you, boss, Justin Castles, Lord Supreme of Lucky Straps. And thank you, everyone, for watching along at home. And
hold on.
what?
Hold the phone. Paul Henderson, how do we find out about your street walks, Greg? That's a good question. How would someone get involved in that?
It is a good question. Look, I typically do them with either our Fujifilm Fuji X Oz group, which is Nev is also a member of that. Justin's not,
and they're usually based in Melbourne. So if any of our Guatemalan listeners are still on,
I'm happy to come to Guatemala, but
you
will have to foot the bill for travel expense and security. But yeah, look, I can set up street walks for groups of photographers in Melbourne. It's something that I love to do because A, it gets me out. B, I love Melbourne as a city. It's my hometown. I have a lot of love for the place and the people and everything about it. So, you can hit us up.
Xos? Is that
Fuji Xos? That's a private Facebook group.
Okay.
So if you're a Fujifilm shooter in Australia or New Zealand, join Fuji Xos. But otherwise, just drop the channel a line and we'll get in touch. We've got an email address on the channel, haven't we?
Yeah. Otherwise, depending on what your preferred method is, maybe we'll set up a special email address for it or something this year. We need to figure that out. And then otherwise, you can contact via any of the Lucky Straps socials, or we do have socials for the Camera Life, like on Instagram and stuff like that. If you
or just find me on Instagram at
Greg.
@gcromie, @GCROMIE.
All of that. Greg's stuff is all linked below. My stuff, like you can get in touch. There's a ton of ways to get in touch with us. If you hit me up on socials, don't be surprised if you don't hear back for like a week, but I will get back to you. But if you get in touch via Lucky Straps, you'll track me down faster. Otherwise, also, Nev, people can find you on Instagram and Facebook. I've linked Instagram down below, and you'll have a website
sometime. Soon. Very soon. I've started building it, and just my son's actually helping me build it. He's better with that stuff than me.
Nice.
That's another little thing that. So thank you so much.
Anytime.
And it's been great. Really, really, really enjoyed it catching up with you guys. And I've got a busy weekend. I'm actually shooting a golf tournament this weekend. It's a volunteer gig. Friends of mine, they run the golf club, and I said I'll come down for a couple of hours and shoot it for them.
Nice.
And it's a bit still like what we're saying before. It leads to other things. So get out and shoot, enjoy. Yeah.
Never know what's coming.
Much.
Play the music, boss.
Play that funky music.
Bye, everyone. Be safe. Get out and shoot.